The Packers are no longer number one on the power rankings. But as they say in Casablanca, we'll always have week 6. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. At least they're still in the top 10. Grossi. And today we are going to be breaking down the Week 7 power rankings. But before we get to that, I want to do a big shout and thank you to some brand new patrons. First, we have Brandon Cummer. Thank you very much. And then we got Tim Classens. Thank you both very much for your support. It is much appreciated. So, yep, let's rip off the Band-Aid to reveal the seeping wound that is my soul after Sunday's beatdown of the Green Bay Packers. So yeah, they're not going to be number one. And I know there's going to be plenty of Bears fans in here and just be like, Hey, Tom, how does number 2 in the division feel? And you know what I'm going to say to that? It doesn't feel great, all right? And you're bullies. You're cyber bullies, and you shouldn't do it. I'm going to call your mom. So there are a lot of shakeups this week in the top 10, in which new number ones, obviously, as we already spoke about, but there's a lot of shifting. People falling off the list, people coming onto the list, big movements going up and down. And so, as we head into Week 7 of the NFL, let's get to it. Number 10. Even though they had a bye week, I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, I think, could have made an argument to be on it last week and replace the garbage Browns or the Bears from last week. And I understood that. But coming out of this bye week, you know, the Raiders, of course, 2 weeks ago, knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs, giving them their first loss. I feel like they deserve a top 10 spot. I'm sure they'll ruin it this week and get off the list. But, I mean, let's look at it. They were impressive against the Chiefs. They outscored them. Their defense held when it need to. Josh Jacobs is running all over the place. Henry Ruggs go fast. And Carr is not playing too shabby either. The Raiders, for me, I think deserve a top 10 spot because from the beginning I mentioned they could be a dark horse team to make a run in the playoffs. They have the weapons. You have guys even like Darren Waller, who's, you know, showing up as one of the best tight ends in the NFL right now. I think that they could potentially make a run for it. Is that defense going to be able to lock it down a little bit more? We'll see. And I think, you know, the second game with the Chiefs will be more telling than the first. But right now, I think the Vegas Raiders have done just enough to hit the top 10. Though they're playing the Buccaneers on Sunday, so they might die. Then number 9, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One could argue that they could be higher, but I'm still sore from Sunday. Yeah, absolute dominant performance from Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, mostly their defense. And this is, of course, coming off the loss that they had to the Chicago Bears, in which they did not look so good. But at the same time, it was an away game on a short week. On top of that, going against a dominant Bears defense, which is gross to say. And they had a number of injuries. So if this is what the Buccaneers look like when they are fully healthy, oh no. I have said since the beginning, that I do not want to play this team later in the season. Well, apparently week 6 is later in the season for the Green Bay Packers because they got their ass whooped. We could not block their pass rushers to save our lives. Nobody was getting open. Rodgers had his 3rd pick 6 of his entire career and then threw an interception on the next drive, and Brady was efficient enough. Rob Gronkowski, that old bag of bones, he was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to learn how to play well again. Is it because our defense is terrible, or is it because Gronk, you know, decided to be good? I don't know, but either way, this team looked frackin' damn good for 3 quarters. The first quarter, not so good. And the Buccaneers, again, unfortunately, I feel like they're going to be a team that just gets better with age. Then number 8, you got the Chicago Bears. Ooh, close game. Close game against the Panthers, but your defense shined. Your defense came through, made Teddy Bridgewater's life pretty damn miserable. And again, they are one of the best defenses in the NFC, and they are going to be able to keep the Bears in regardless on how Nick Foles plays. If Nick Foles plays well, the Bears are going to do well because their defense is going to allow them to. The question is going to become, can they beat those elite, healthy teams? Well, we're going to find out in a few weeks. But as of right now, the Bears, they're moving on up. Then number 7... It's a big drop. You got the Green Bay Packers. Now, here's what we're going to talk about. Rodgers has come out multiple times and said that he thinks it's an anomaly. It's an exception. It's not going to be the start of a trend, and I'm inclined to believe him. They played pretty damn well for the first 4 weeks in the NFL, right? They were knocking down opponents. They encountered a defense that was pretty darn good, and they got their ass kicked, though. Rodgers on the McAfee show talking about today how, part of it is beating ourselves, but you had to give it up to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And listen, when we were up 10-0, things were looking so good, and then it didn't. Ronald Jones also ran all over our defense, which is incredibly problematic as our run defense still hasn't gotten better. Weird ass schemes and play calls on defense. We weren't really playing a lot of man coverage at all, playing a lot of zone, playing off wide receivers, allowing them to get easy dump offs. So that was very confusing. Mike Pettin seat is getting warmer. But one of the biggest things coming out of this is David Bakhtiari being injured. Rodgers said that he's going to do everything he can to play this Sunday, but if he misses any amount of time, that could be problematic. But right now, the Packers do drop a bit, but we'll see if this is the beginning of a trend or hopefully just a one-off. Then number 6, you got the Buffalo Bills. Back-to-back losses for the Buffalo Bills. And listen, they're playing good teams. They lost to the Titans pretty convincingly on Tuesday Night Football. Then playing against the Chiefs, who are one of the best teams in the NFL right now. That's a tough order in the rain. The defense held pretty well, but Josh Allen did struggle. But I want to say on top of that, they had no run game. None to speak of. And guys were healthy. And so now you're kind of just scratching your head. After 3 weeks ago, we were like, oh yeah, Josh Allen's in the MVP conversation. Didn't really look like it too much on Monday. Again, I think the Bills are one of those teams. They're going to be able to shake it off. They still have a good offense. They still have a good defense, even though they need some more contributions from some of those guys on defense to make more of an impact. The Bills are still a good football team. They kind of just had a rough little break there. I still think that they're favorites to win their division because, who else is there? But the Bills, they fall down to number 6. Then number 5, you got the Tennessee Titans, who, after beating the Bills, they decide to head on over for a divisional matchup against the Houston Texans. And boy, oh boy, did that game turn into a shootout real fast. The concerns I have, their defense was just allowing scores left and right. That's a little bit concerning to me. They're not really getting a ton of pressure on Deshaun Watson. But on the other hand, Derrick Henry. Do I need to say anything else? This team has shown that they can be dominant. This team has shown that they can win in shootouts. And I think that it is a decently balanced team. When Ryan Tannehill plays well and he gets it going with guys like A.J. Brown, and on top of that, you have Derrick Henry running like he's running, it's going to be tough to stop them. This is going to be interesting to see if this was just like a divisional matchup because, those are tough to try and gauge. But I would be a little bit concerned about the defense. But right now, I think they've earned a top 5 spot. Then number 4, you got the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, if you watch the first 3 quarters of that football game against the Eagles, they probably would have been number 2. But then the last quarter happened and they allowed 22 points. And the Eagles almost came back and tied that football game. If you're a Ravens fan, that's a bit concerning. If you want to just say like, oh, that's all prevent defense or, just playing super lackadaisical, you played so lackadaisical that they got back in the game. That's concerning against a beat-up Eagles team. So the Ravens, for me, again, they remain in the top 5. I still think that they're a very good football team, but they definitely have some improving to do. Then number 3, you got the Seattle Seahawks. They're on their bye week, all right? And here's what I'm going to say about the Seahawks. A lot of people are looking at me and they're like, Tom, how come the Seahawks aren't number 1? And here's why. 1, they beat the Minnesota Vikings by 1 point, where if you look at like a team like the Packers, who took care of them, or you look how the Vikings played this past Sunday. That's not really that much of an accomplishment. But I still think that the Seahawks are a top 3 team because they have Russell Wilson. They have a good run game. Their defense leaves a lot to be desired. But they're a team that I do not want to play in the playoffs. Most definitely not. And I still think they are a very, very good team. And right now, they're going to keep on winning. I think that there are 2 teams that are better than them, and who knows, after this week, they could rise up the ranks once again. They have a divisional matchup with the Cardinals, but right now, Seahawks are doing pretty damn well. Then number 2, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh boy, remember when everyone said the Browns were for real for a hot second? That ended really quick. They demolished the Browns, 38-7. They are one of the most balanced teams in the NFL. They have a kick-ass defense. Their offense is clicking. The only thing that could be problematic is the fact that they just lost Devin Bush for the year. That could come back to bite them in the hiney. But I think they're still going to be okay in the long run. Bush is a fantastic player, but the Steelers right now, they are rocking, and they are looking to be one of the favorites in the AFC. Let's see how they do against the Titans. That's going to be a really damn good test. And then finally, number one, back to reclaim their throne, are the Kansas City Chiefs. They're back on top. They were gone for a minute. And now here we go again. It wasn't the prettiest game against the Bills, but oh boy, did they get it done. Travis Kelce, man, what a freaking rock star. Patrick Mahomes making some ridiculous and crazy plays. On top of that, their defense was able to limit Allen. Some mistakes here and there, and again, it was a little bit of a sloppy football game, but the Chiefs, you can never count them out. And I still think the Chiefs are the favorite in the AFC. I have almost no doubt that they're going to be in the AFC Championship game. And I will say that this was a nice way to rebound from their first loss against the Raiders. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think that this ordering is all out of whack? You think like the Saints should be on there? The Cowboys aren't. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy on all social media. See down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.